We began our Lenten journey 6 weeks ago or so in the Garden of Eden, in the paradise that God created us to live in all of its beauty and wonder and awe and glory and goodness and abundance. That's the world that we were made for. That's the world what we were made to live in. And it's the world that we long for. That Eden still haunts us, even if we were never there. We get taste of it around in different places and things that we see and different things that we experience in our life. And we want more and we want it all together. Our hearts long for the return to Eden. But the road out of the garden, when sin entered the world, was a highway to the cemetery. God had said, "You must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat from it, you will certainly die." You will die. Many psychologists believe that thanatophobia is the base fear. Did I say that wrong? The fear of death is the base fear. That some say the chief rival is the fear of the unknown. But what are the great unknowns? Right. When will we die? Where will we die? How will we die? And maybe the greatest, what happens after we die? The pursuit to perpetuate our lives, our existence, impacts where we live. You'll notice that almost everywhere people live, water is nearby because you can't survive without water. People tend to gravitate towards climates that are not too hot because you bake in the desert, and not too cold because you freeze together if you're in the North Pole. You can see our pursuit in the ways that we spend our money. $5.3 trillion spent on healthcare, 18% of our gross domestic product, over $15,000 per person to perpetuate life. It affects who we live with. Like we put locks on our doors to keep some people out, and hopefully that the people inside are people that we love and can take care of. Security cameras to protect us. It impacts the decisions that we make all the time, like what we eat. Maybe not enough. Maybe we're eating things that we shouldn't eat until the doctor says, you know what, if you keep eating that, then your life will be in danger, and then sometimes we find the motivation to eat differently. It affects what we drive. Like if you start shopping for a new car, what are the safety features that if I get in an act that's going to keep me and my family, my loved ones alive? The fear of death is the underlying cause of a lot of other things that we fear and a lot of our other mental conditions, right? That a lot of our other fears are rooted in the need either for control or for safety. Right? I'm afraid of snakes because I'm afraid that they will bite me and I will die. People are afraid of germs because if you get germs, they can infect you and they can cause a disease and you can die. People are afraid of the dark because you don't know what's in the dark, and if there's something in the dark that could threaten your life, then, well, you kind of know the story. Checking your locks. I did not know why I was so afraid of the dentist. I mean, I knew some things about my bad dentist experience, but I didn't know that I actually had gone into cardiac arrest when I was 9 years old in a dentist chair. Like, I did not want to go to the dentist because I do not want to die. The Bible actually agrees with putting fear at the top of the list, the fear of death. In Hebrews, it says that Jesus would conquer death, that he would do this, that he would defeat death to free those held in slavery all their lives by their fear of death. that the fear of death is a form of bondage that affects every aspect of our lives. Paul calls it the last enemy, a final villain in the story of our lives that ends in death. Adam and Eve in the garden, God had said to them, if you eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, it will certainly kill you. You will die. But they didn't drop dead on the spot. But the dehumanization process had begun. Adam lived to be 930 years old. His third son, Seth, lived to be 912 years old. Enosh, 905 years old. Kenan, 910 years old. Mahalalel, 895 years old. Jared, 962 years old. Methuselah, the longest person who ever lived, 969 years. Lamech, 777 years. But as the burden of living in a corrupted world increased, the length of life decreased. Till we get to Genesis chapter 6, and the world has become so corrupt that God says, my spirit will not contend with humans forever, for they are mortal. Their days will be 120 years. The oldest person on record, outside of the biblical record that we have of these people who lived a long time ago, a woman named Jeannie Calment died in 1977 at 122 years old. She's the only person ever recorded to live past 120. The oldest person alive today is 116 years old. God, when sin entered the world, put the planet on life support while he worked out a treatment plan. Now, you think about life support, right? If your body is broken down in some tragic accident or disease, they can do different things to keep you alive when your body stops, when parts stop functioning. They can put you on a ventilator, respirator to keep your lungs working, to keep you breathing. They can give you dialysis to keep your kidneys functioning when they're not working. They have machines that will keep your heart beating. God put creation on life support, and there were two key components. The first one was mercy. Mercy. Life support for the spiritual life requires mercy, and God loves us. And that's where the mercy originates and wants to be with us. It is his mercy that perpetuates life. So when Adam and Eve sin in the garden and they're trying to cover up their sin and their shame, we encountered the first wardrobe malfunction with their fig leaves that led to God providing animals, skins, sacrificed to cover their shame. And you come to the sin spread through the world and corruption that has spread around the globe to the point where God had grieved the fact that he ever began this human experiment. But he doesn't destroy it. He has Noah build an ark, a place of rescue, safety, protect the next generation. And at Babel, when the people are building a tower to reach to the heavens where they are going to take their reign over all of creation, God does not strike them down, but confuses their language. As sin spreads throughout the world, God's grace continues to spread to protect life. He creates a new people out of Abraham with the intention of blessing all the nations of the earth through him. Mercy and justice. Mercy because God loves us and wants to be with us, and so goes out of his way to perpetuate life, but justice so that he can be with us. Psalm says, "For you are not a God who is pleased with wickedness. with you evil people are not welcome. The arrogant cannot stand in your presence. That a holy God cannot be in the presence of a sinful people without a covering of the shame. God instituted the sacrificial system that we find in the Old Testament, in the book of Exodus and Leviticus. And if you've ever read the books of Exodus and Leviticus, Exodus begins down this journey, and Leviticus just goes like deep into this whole sacrificial system. And it's long, and it's detailed, and it's exceedingly tedious, maybe even boring, if you can say that about the Bible. It's a temporary measure to cover our sin, to sustain our connection to God. And the details, the specificity of it, how much it goes into all of this stuff, emphasizes the magnitude of how desperate our situation is. Right? He doesn't give them 5 Hail Marys and 3 Our Fathers after a wild weekend of partying, like my fraternity brothers when I was in college would always go to Mass on Sunday after Saturday night. The sacrifices that they were making were meant to awaken their heart, to help them realize how desperate and profound sin is in its impact on our lives and on our communities and on the world. It was meant to wake them up. Now, they weren't barbecuing their pets. Maybe if it was, their little sheep, maybe it would have had a different impact on them. But they were sacrificing on these altars their livelihood, their sustenance. Right? These are not wealthy people. These animals are the things that they earn their revenue, that provides their clothes, that gives them their food. God says, do I eat the flesh of bulls or drink the blood of goats? Sacrifice thank offerings to me. Fulfill your vows in the Most High. Call to me. He wants a relationship. These sacrifices are for the purpose of the relationship. Call out to me in the day of trouble. I will deliver you, and you will honor me. The sacrifices they were called to make were unacceptable when they were just going through the motions. When they were not allowing them to penetrate their hearts and address their rebellion against God, their sin, their need for covering. So God says, and through the prophet Amos, I despise your religious festivals. All these things that you're doing, you're going to church, you're doing all this stuff, I despise it. Your assemblies are a stench to me. Even though you bring your burnt offerings and grain offerings, I will not accept them. Because you're doing the right stuff, but your heart's not in the right place. These things are inherent to the nature of God. Righteousness and justice are the foundation of your throne. Love and faithfulness go before you. Mercy is why God doesn't destroy the world, and justice is how he doesn't destroy the world. Mercy and justice, these are the only things that keep relationships alive, and they're the only things that keep us from destroying the world and destroying each other. Watch a game. Turn on the TV, watch a basketball game. NCAA tournament games are on tomorrow. Watch any sporting event when the refs are not enforcing the rules to the satisfaction of the players. And if the refs don't take control of the situation, what will happen over time is chaos will erupt. The rules are there to protect the game and the people who are playing the game. And they punish players with fines and suspensions. And And if they don't learn their lesson, right, if they keep doing the same thing over and over, they don't forgive the people that they're playing with and go on with the game and learn how to get along together, eventually they will be thrown out of the game. Parents, when we love our children so much that we don't discipline them, like love without justice, like it can work for a while, but one day we wake up in the morning and we've got a terror in our house that we have no idea what to do with, and how did it come to this place? Love and justice sustain life. Deb and I met with our estate planner a couple weeks ago. Like we had one, no, now we have one. We met with an estate planner a couple weeks ago. And one of the things that you talk about with an estate planner is a power of attorney, which includes a health directive. Right? And basically the question of the power of attorney for the health directive is, when do you want the plug pulled on your life support? How long do you want to live in a state where your organs are not functioning? And ultimately the question, I think, the answer to the question from my perspective is there any hope? Right? Can't pull the plug when I can no longer be saved. When there is no future. Some look at the state of their lives and are the state of the world now and ask the same questions. Is there any hope? Can this world be saved? And Good Friday is God's answer to the question for creation. Can the world be saved? Since the children have flesh and blood, Jesus shared in their humanity, so by his death he might break the power of him who holds the power of death, that is the devil, and free those who all their lives were held in slavery to death. There is life yet to be lived. There's life yet to be lived because Good Friday is God's solution to the problem. Day after day, every priest in the Old Covenant would stand and perform his religious duties again and again, offering the same sacrifices which could never take away sins. But when Jesus had offered for all time one sacrifice for sins, he sat down at the right hand of God, and by that one sacrifice, he has made perfect forever those who are being made holy. God made him who had no sin to be sin for us, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. Took our sin and put it on Jesus, took Jesus' righteousness and put it on us. The cross is the ultimate expression of God's mercy and justice. What the law was powerless to do because it was weakened by the sinful flesh. What we couldn't do for ourselves because of our broken, corrupt lives, God did by sending his own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh to be a sin offering. God did this. The travesty of justice was not Jesus' trial. It was just the last straw in a long story of injustices with every sin, every act of rebellion against God, against his kingdom, and the glory for which he created us. God did for us, sending his Son in the likeness of sinful flesh to be a sin offering. It was his justice for all of the sin that had gone before. God demonstrates his love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. The solution to our problem reveals the magnitude of our situation. Right? That the cross was what saved us. Tells us about how much we needed to be saved from. In the same way that the Old Testament sacrifices were meant to awaken the hearts of the people to the weight of their sin, the crucifixion of Jesus is the final solution. And it's what makes the sacrament that we're going to celebrate tonight and the service that we're here to commemorate so important to our Easter celebration. Right? What are we being raised from when we come in on Sunday morning? And how do we get to that space? How do we get that promise? We don't pause and think about and remember and commemorate what it was that made